So, welcome to another edition of ALN Thursday at 3. Today, we'll be talking to Carrie Lohman about ERDC report on risk analysis that uses 16 years of history to actually provide useful information. We'll get into that in just a second with Carrie, and we're going to ask him why he's looking so happy in this picture. I suspect it has something to do with a successful project that is behind him, but we'll find out in just a bit here. And we like to thank our patron members, which now includes Kahua, Onuma, and ABS. Kahua was so outstanding in their participation in activities in Washington, D.C. in April that they got elevated to patron member. And we got some things going on that you might want to become the first platinum member of the ALN. Let's thank the rest of our member organizations. We got a couple new ones in here, Tallgrass AI and Salis Technology Partners, who are teaming up on a really dynamic stock market-like way of tracking assets in order to be able to resell them at their highest value when you've determined you are going to be selling them anyway. And we've had them on the show a little bit. It's an important concept, and we'll be having them back. They're writing a paper with the Asset Leadership Network. Actually, we've written it. We just have to expand the publication of it, and they'll be back to talk about that some more. But the reason why you might want to become the first platinum member of the Asset Leadership Network is we're doing some incredible things with the National Institute of Building Sciences and with federal agencies, and actually any owner that wants to use the special contracting mechanism of the National Institute of Building Sciences to do innovation projects. And if we combine our innovation projects on asset management in federal agencies or in hospitals or whichever market you want to approach, I think this could be really good for some companies that are actually leader companies. So keep in touch with me about that. And not sure what the program is going to be next week, although we had a little bit of a BITCH session with someone today that was cracking me up. And it's like, we need to capture what we're saying here and put it out there, because the complaints that we were saying that organizations don't understand how to properly approach asset management and asset leadership could be funny, and it's universal. So that might be next week's program. Anyway, here we are. Carrie, nice to talk with you. And so why were you so happy in that picture?
So I was on a developmental assignment down at Norfolk, and I was staying in a beach house in Norfolk on the Willoughby Spit. And right behind me is a beach that the Army Corps of Engineers actually renourished. And it was just a beautiful location to be at.
Oh, that's a great reason. I'm glad I picked up on that. And congratulations on that. And congratulations on your trajectory with the Corps. It's very interesting. It kind of follows the asset leadership networks. You were at the Corps before asset management really became the thing. Why don't you tell us about your trajectory?
Sure. So when the housing bubble popped back around 2007, my company was slowly dwindling down with people, and I could see the writing on the wall. So I ended up taking a job in New Orleans as a structural engineer, and we were rebuilding hurricane protection. And my first year down there was wild and crazy, lots of work. 7 days a week. We worked till 7 o'clock on Friday nights. It was very busy.
Oh, that was cutting out early, was ending at 7 o'clock, right?
Oh, it was it actually was. You'd be surprised. The office was busier on Friday nights at 7, or just as busy as it would be on a Tuesday at 1 o'clock. It was we did a lot of work back then. But after about a year of that, I asked if there were any field duty assignments that came up, and they had an asset management condition assessment program, and I volunteered for it, and it's been a wonderful ride ever since. I worked 6 years at New Orleans District, rebuilding hurricane protection and doing lots of condition assessment and lots of development for the Army Corps of Engineers asset management program in terms of flood risk management, condition assessment process. And I ended up moving to New York for a promotion into the asset management program permanent. I was the regional asset manager from Maine all the way down to Virginia. And then in 2019, I moved to DC to join the headquarters asset management team. I was working for Pete Dodgian at the time, and we've been, well, it's been a wild ride since then too. Lots, headquarters is busier than anywhere else. And, we've been building out our asset management system, right? We wrote lots of policy the last few years. We tied our condition assessment program directly into the budget process. We've been developing value models, automating our budget process, maximizing our maintenance investments, and it's been a very impressive tour.
Excellent. And so can you tell us a little bit about this ERDC? And that's Engineering Research Development. Well, I forget what the ERDC
Design Center.
Design Center. Engineering
Yeah.
Research Development Center. I've got it on.
Yeah, development is. I think you're right. Yeah, I haven't been there for a while. But so we've developed the condition assessment process, and we went out and inspected all of USACE's locks and dams around 2010, 2011 timeframe. And that's about 200 different lock and dam facilities on all of the major river systems here in America. And then as we were collecting that data, the failure data that we used for our assets, the failure curves we had at that time, they were all performed by expert elicitation. So we had a team of a handful of experts. They estimated what the total life cycle would be for all of the different assets that we had. And it ended up being 31 specific curves. And each of those curves had different Weibull shape and other parameters to define them. And we were always promised that we would perform, or that team would perform Bayesian updating, which means basically taking the empirical condition data we had collected over all the years and then using that to back calculate and verify or improve our likelihood of failure estimates that shape those curves. And that hadn't happened. Lots of people turned over for many years, but we had a research team working on our condition assessment process improvements, and they started working on likelihood of failure estimates and statistical analysis to take our existing 16 years of asset management condition assessment data and utilize that existing information to back calculate much more accurate and likelihood of failure estimates. But it wasn't just 31 curves. The big, impressive thing here from our program is we originally had 31 failure curves representing about 1,800 different asset types: lock walls, lock gates, lock gate operating machinery, all of the big mission critical assets, but also buildings, parking lots, roads, fences, all kinds, just the full wealth and, range of asset types at our facilities. Like I say, it's about 1,800 total is what we're left with now. And 31 failure curves it leaves a lot to be desired for accuracy of how, in terms of asset life, and then the way those assets fail, the curves that should, describe their failure. But now we can generate, with the statistical analysis, we can take our existing, 16 years of condition assessment history for all these asset types that we've collected, and we can use that to, run some statistical analysis on it and generate a failure curve with an improved life cycle estimate, total life cycle estimate, and then also improve build a failure curve for each of those assets. And they can do one every hour or two as a system, essentially what it comes down to. So we're getting much, much better failure risk estimates than we had historically. And it's such a significant improvement to our program because it doesn't just apply to the locks and dams. It also applies to our flood risk management dams, our hydropower facilities. And we're going to take this data and make significant improvement to our asset management system.
All right, that is that's what I wanted to get. But can we now break that down into pieces? Because nobody else in the world is dealing with the assets that you're dealing with, but everyone else in the world has the exact same problems you have. And it doesn't matter what category, what industry, or whatever, it all comes down to having the data and being able to use it in a trusted analytic manner to improve your decision making, which at the end there, I could tell you're excited about that part of it. And we'll get to that improving the decision making part. But the thing that a lot of people don't understand is they think they can't get started because they don't have enough right information. That's exactly when you need to start. You need to get the information that you do have and start working with it. Is that part of the process that you're describing?
We absolutely did, and to be upfront with you, that's um, making sure you get started is much more important than it is in having perfect data or even necessarily good data. It's important to get started because we work through continuous improvement in asset management. That's part of the process, and I mean, as long as you're tracking assets, and their condition, and then how many of those assets are failing each year, you can use your data to then go back and track and improve your likelihood of failure estimates from any condition rating. We use an A through F school style letter grade rating system. It's very simple. If it's brand new, it's an A. If it's got some normal wear but it's functioning well, then it's in B condition. And then if it's failing, it's an F. If it's poor, it's D with some significant issues. But we just take and we assign those condition ratings, and then we track how many of those assets in any given year fail, and then we use that information through some algorithms to then estimate what's the chance of failure in any given condition for any asset type. It's pretty simple when you boil it down to just the basics.
Okay, so that's great. And that's what we want to do is be boiling this down to basics because again, you're the only ones who are ever going to be dealing with locks and dams in the United States of America. So nobody else is going to be able to replicate you exactly. However, the thing that everyone else can follow is in addition to their core assets, they have parking lots and fences and all these other things too. And so many people, well, human evolution occurred because of specialization. We broke things into parts so people could get better at them. Well, now human evolution of tools are allowing us to come back together because we can take all this intense information about all these different specialty asset categories and start seeing that information together to improve decision making. So can you talk a little bit about the process and bringing along parking lots and fences and all these quote unquote ancillary assets along on the journey?
Sure thing. So what we do is we work with our business line managers. We have several major business lines: navigation, flood risk management, recreation, hydropower. We work with them to help them improve and automate their budget processes. We develop multi-criteria decision analysis tools, but basically we're taking and we're using these likelihood of failure estimates, multiplying by the asset consequences of failure. Usually we use economics. For a navigation lock, the days of closure times the cost to shipping industry per day. Like if a lock costs $1 million per day of outage or delays to shipping industry, and it's out for 2 days for a specific component that we have to order and then install, and so that's $2 million potential risk or consequences, and then we multiply it by a 5% chance of failure in any given year. That's a simple equation to get a risk. And then what we do is we work with the business line managers to understand what's important to them, build that into their budget process and automate it. But essentially it becomes a rack and stack from one to end. What are the highest risk down to the lowest risk? And what are the most useful, most important facilities within their portfolio? And we rank them among the worst condition and the highest risk assets. That's how it ends up shaking out.
Okay. And so you have some type of uh, mission dependency index that helps you with this, perhaps?
Yes. So among all those asset types that I mentioned, we have mission importance factors. It's a scalar value from 1 to 100. And like a lock wall is a 100. If you lose the lock wall, it has the longest outage duration, the biggest consequence of failure, and it's the most important. It's the hardest component to get back into service.
Yes.
Lock gates and operating machinery, they take a little bit longer, or they're very critical components, but you can return those to service a little bit more quickly than you can the lock wall. So they have about an 80 mission importance factor, and then you get all the way down to some of our tertiary assets, some of your ancillary buildings. They might be a 5 or a 10. Sidewalks or 1s and 2s, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And how did this ERDC report open up eyes on anything that you had been seeing, but was like, oh wow, what were some of the things, or was it pretty much what you knew was coming?
Um, a lot of researchers everywhere talk a big game, especially with technical details. That's my experience. Some of them deliver, and uh, I've sent this report to all of our international and domestic asset management partners because it's the best piece of research I've seen relative to asset management in my 17 years in the Corps of Engineers. They delivered a product that is excellent. It takes our existing data, and then we can run, like I say, run some statistical analysis, and then we generate likelihood of failure estimates. They delivered. But as I read the report, I was sitting here and I was like, I think I got it. I think I got it. I think I'm seeing what they're saying. And as I worked my way through it, I sent it to a couple of other people and I asked for their opinions. I'm like, does this say what I think it does? That we're actually going to be able to finally solve this improved likelihood of failure estimates, not just for a couple of mission critical assets, but for everything. The paper, the research, it doesn't care what the asset type is. It can be my desk here that I'm sitting at, or the chair. Anything that you track, an asset condition for and a history of it, and you have a representative sample size. It can help you develop, likelihood of failure estimates. It's pretty intuitive.
Okay, we're going to go out of order in my questions that I had, but that's okay because what you just said is what I was going to close with, but we'll go with now. The repeatability of this. I you kind of answered the question before I asked it, but Coca-Cola could use this and improve their assets, right? It's not specific to locks and
That's
dams.
funny you ask.
Oh,
My
why is that?
cousin works for Coca-Cola as a mechanic, so we've been talking a lot the last 2 days as my battery's been failing in my car. But yes, Coca-Cola or Pepsi, 7-Eleven, they could all apply this report if they want to track asset condition and understand its likelihood of failure in any given year.
Okay, so that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited coming out of our Global Asset Management Summit repeatable success stories. You're continuing the trajectory of people sharing repeatable approaches to succeeding. And this is, what our network is all about. And so really appreciate that. But we're not ending now. What I wanted to get to before we got to that part was you really lit up about what you're going to do different going forward based on this information. So can you give us a little bit of understanding of how you think this is going to influence your decision making?
Well, I mean, in short, we take the improved likelihood of failure estimates, we build it into automated tools, automated information systems, and then we automate our budget processes, the initial prioritization. And what I say by that is, I'll just give a quick example of how we assisted the recreation business line manager at headquarters USACE. For 3 metrics, condition, consequence, and risk buy down, the recreation business line manager would prioritize about 1,500 funding requests annually for maintenance actions at all of our facilities. It took him a full week to do that with them, just going in a spreadsheet and filtering and constantly going, more filtering, so on and so forth to build his prioritization, a full week. And it wasn't any better for any of the other business line managers. We worked with all of them to evaluate their multi-thousands of work packages that they go through to develop these improved prioritizations. But once we got through with our, a value modeling tool that we developed for them, tying their strategic objectives for their business line back to their asset likelihood of failure, condition and risk data, we automated his budget prioritization, and it takes seconds with better data and better estimates of failure. Like I say, it took his budget process from a week to seconds. And that's the initial prioritization. The beauty of this is he used to spend that full week just getting the initial prioritization, and he really had no time at that point to communicate with the field, the districts and the divisions and the specific projects, about the eaches. There are a couple of work packages or funding requests that should be increased in priority or lowered in priority. Once we automated his budget process, he gets that week back, saves him tons of time for other efforts. But his final prioritization, he's able to communicate with with all of the people in the field to move around about 100 funding requests where we can refine the data better and get to a much better final prioritization based on priorities that we can't build into an automated tool that simply risk just doesn't help us evaluate.
Okay, I got a couple questions related to that. How many business lines do you have?
Let's see, navigation, flood risk management, hydropower, recreation, environmental stewardship, water supply are the 6 big ones that we have in operations and maintenance.
So that's at least 6 weeks of man hours that have now been reduced to 6 seconds. So there's a return on investment that is very measurable and calculatable. So Coca-Cola can apply that to their divisions and expect the same type of results. So how much is AI involved in this?
So it's interesting that you ask. We've been meeting with Palantir to help to take our tools, our processes that we've developed, and we're working to connect our existing Army information systems and the Army Corps of Engineers to the Army Vantage platform that Palantir developed. As we discuss this, the goal is, and this is straight from the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works, Mr. Tell, Honorable Tell, he wants us to have an automated maintenance prioritization for our full backlog of maintenance requirements across all business lines. And he wants to be able to see that maintenance prioritization at any time, and he wants to be able to ask it questions, using AI, an AI agent. So that's what we're in talks with Palantir to try and see if we can reach a contract agreement and then have them help build out our existing budget processes that we've now automated into the Vantage platform, and then build us an AI agent to connect all of our data together, work even faster to improve our data analytics and our data visualization capabilities, and then allow all of our senior leadership to have a much better understanding of where our assets highest risk are, and then ask it all kinds of questions like in the Lakes and Rivers division, what are my highest risks on the Illinois River at the most upstream lock, or what are the highest risk assets driving mission critical failures or mission failures across the Allegheny River. So those are the types of things we will be able to ask it in the future, we hope.
Okay, so breaking this down into a couple questions. First is, holy cow, that 6 weeks or the weeks down to seconds, or a week down to 1 second is without AI?
Oh, that's without AI.
That's very impressive to achieve without AI. But you're also doing AI planning the improvement won't be in the reduce in time. It will be the ability for your top decision maker to see, understand, filter questions, and be able to refine decision making capabilities.
That's a big piece of it. So the Army Corps of Engineers is great at building new facilities, planning, designing, constructing new facilities. We have lots of facilities that are they need some love and care and attention throughout the whole nation. We sustain our mission. I think we do an excellent job, particularly with the maintenance that we are funded for. But I think if with these tools that we're developing, we'll give greater visibility for where the highest mission risks are and data visualizations. And then with the AI capability, they'll be able to see for themselves and dig into it without having to send a data call or an email or something down through 3 or 4 or 7 layers into our agency to get a response back that may or may not answer even the one question, much less 5 or 10 others that they may want to dig into to understand, if I fund this, what do I get for it? That's ultimately what they want to see is, what do I get for funding this?
Why haven't we had you on this program, 16 years ago? Well, anyway, you're here now. This is so great. I can't even imagine. I'm afraid we're going to go a little bit over the half-hour time. Do you have a few extra minutes? Thank you. Okay, because I want to turn this, before we get to a question from Mark, I want to turn this into a little bit of an open meeting, because I was, happily saying that the National Institute of Building Sciences is allowing the Asset Leadership Network to volunteer coordinate discussions among federal agencies to do different parts of AI in asset management initiatives through NIBS. And it seems like you're starting off with a really good part of it before we even get going. I'm sure you would share this with your other asset management colleagues at other federal agencies. And can you meet with me and Chris Vick and maybe Bob Leach, who is one of our senior fellows who sat at your desk and maybe even at that desk when he was working with Civil Works. I just want everyone to realize that this train is moving. It has already left the station. It's going to a good place, and people can jump on.
Okay. That sounds great.
All right, so let's get to Mark's question about this risk analysis approach being applied to any asset by any owner, but aren't some assets generating field data that's more useful for this than others? And if there's a difference, aren't there characteristics that make different assets better for this type of analysis?
Most certainly. So I'm a structural engineer, and as soon as we started this process, I was asking the question: how do you apply this data to structural assets or geotechnical assets? The Weibull curve analysis and risk analysis methods lend themselves much better to mechanical equipment and electrical equipment than they do to structural and geotechnical and some other types of equipment. But if you have condition data history and you understand when you have an asset that's in a certain condition, say it's B or C or D, and then it fails, then you can take these likelihood of failure statistical analysis methods and apply them to your assets. And that's how it's that simple. Well, okay. I say it's simple. There's some, analysis, that goes along
possible. With it. It's that possible.
Yeah.
My father was in the Marines. He's a retired colonel. We just celebrated his 95th birthday, and he taught me, who said it was supposed to be easy, soldier? That's what you're supposed to do.
That's true.
Yeah. So actually, I think that's, is there any question that you thought I was going to ask or wish that I would have asked that I haven't asked?
I think you hit on a lot of the high points. Our primary mission right now is tying, budget to outcomes, making sure we demonstrate the value of investing in our agency. And our goal is to improve, confidence in, ASA, OMB, Office of Management Budget, and Congress to invest in our agency so that we can better sustain our assets and assist other asset management partners in doing the same.
Excellent. So, Mr. Dalton, when he was running Civil Works, I got to visit with him, and he asked me about ISO 55001 certification. And I said, "Oh, you don't have to get certified to get the benefits of this. Don't worry about that." He said, "I want to get certified because I want to be able to go to Congress and say, I am doing the best system in the world to get the greatest value for our nation. And if there's anything that I can be doing that's better than this, please point me to it." And I was like, damn, that's a really good approach to this. And you just described that same thing. So there's alignment from top throughout the system, and it's staying with different leaders in charge. So that's really good. The Army Corps of Engineers Civil Works were the first presenters on ISO 55001 from the federal government to the Asset Leadership Network, and you're still kicking butt and leading the way. So thank you for joining us today and showcasing this excellent report and how you're using it and how others can use it also. So thank you, Carrie, and thanks to all the audience. Email me if you think we should have a bitch session next week or sometime in the future. I think we could have fun with it and make point without making fun of any specific company. We'll do it for Atlantis, that company that runs the city in the middle of the ocean, and if they don't get their assets together, it's going to sink or something like that. Anyway, but thanks again, Carrie, and thanks to all the attendees, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.
Thank you.